Hello friends, myself Dr. Awadhesh. Students, welcome to our new economic lecture that is on ridgeline with production functions. Ridgeline are the initial description or initial parts of our isoquant curve, students. When we are discussing about isoquant curve, we have to explain that ridge line shows isoproduct curve shows the equi-production possibilities of the product producers while using the various factor of X and Y resource, or we can say the capital and the labor. But one thing is remaining, students, while getting the equi-productions of X and Y factors by X and Y factor, or we can say that by the capital and the labor, the entrepreneur are not able to substitute perfectly the X factor, it means the capital, with the labor. They have a technical problems. They have a technical substitution rate. On those points, or we can say after that technical points, the entrepreneur are not to be substitute the X factor with the Y factor. Ridge lines are those lines which are explaining the pinpoint of that substitution. It means it is holding the rate where the entrepreneur are not to be able to transmit the X factor with the Y factor, or we can say the capital with the labor or labor with the capital. All of you know that the substitution of the factor have a technical points. So ridge lines are those lines which are explaining that situation, that stages, student. Now, students, so focus on the point, or we can say focus on those area which are be defined by the ridge line. Before defining the ridge line, students, those students who are joining this class, they must be have to put their names and their roll numbers onto the comment box, and also to give me your opinion about the lecture, what you feel, what the questions in your mind while the studying of this lecture. If you have any query, you must be have to drop in comment box, and I will try to answer you, because this is the one-way communication, student. Already we and you also know that education is a pattern, education is a medium where the students and teachers are be connected with each other while having a face contact, we can say, while having a eye contact, we better understand what you understand and what your problems. But during this lecture, but during the online classes, it will not to be possible. So I will wait your response verbally or by the messaging, what your questions are there, what your problems are there relating to this lecture. Each and every lectures comment section will be open for your suggestions, your problems, and your discussion, student. Now let's start the lecture, which are based on the ridge lines with the production function, students. See, students, before defining it, see the definition, see the content, what is important, what are the ridge lines, students. The ridge lines are the locus of points of an isoquant where the marginal productivity of factors is zero. Marginal productivity, it means after this point, the rate of substitution, if one additional unit of the factor will be used on those circumstances, on those situations, the productions will not to be increased. It means the MP, the marginal productivity of that factor will be zero. So having a sense of the productions, the entrepreneur never wanted to change, no, not want to increase the factor without getting the output. So the resilience are be those areas, resilience are be explaining those areas or be targeting those area where the entrepreneur are not interested, or we can say the entrepreneur are not to be benefited. So here it is mentioned that isoquant where the marginal productivity of factor is 0. Students, an isoquant is oval shape, but its area is rational operational lies between the ridge line. They are the locus of the points of isoquant where the marginal productivity of factors are 0. The upper ridge lines implies 0 marginal productivity of the capital, and the lower ridge lines implies the 0 marginal productivity of the labors. So it shows the upper segment of exchange, it means upper segment of the capital chain and upper segment of the labor chain, or we can say it's showing the limits of exchange of capital and labor to each other. Student, the marginal products of factors are negative and method of production are insufficient outside the ridge line. So the entrepreneur, the producer must be have to follow that area where the iso product curve is be bound by the ridge line. Now see the ridge line system by whom you are able to better understand what the ridge line is. Student, now see, I pick up 100, it shows the production of 100 product while using the capital and the labor. Now see, if the entrepreneur use more than this factor, so entrepreneur RB get the productions 100 units, but the resource RB changed, one factor being constant and other factor will be changed. Now see it, here's the entrepreneur is used such amount of the capital and such amount of the labor, and after it they continuously increase the capital resources, but they are not to be able to get the output because the labor is not to be less than this amount. It is 1 unit of the labor. So entrepreneur are not to be able to change, or we can say the entrepreneur are not to be able to decrease the number of the labor than this amount. So this is the first point. On these circumstances, on this situation, student, if the entrepreneur are changing the factors, or we can say the resource more than this, the marginal productivity of the capital is now 0. After changing the factor of the capital, the production will not be possible. In this point, student, on the point Z, same things will be shown for the labor. If entrepreneur have to change the labor from G to H, it is fertile, it is productivity, it is providing the same proportion of the productions, but after the G point and after the H point, the capital or the labor will not to be changed, other factor will be changed, and it provides the 0 marginal productivity. Same, it is shown on the IP200. IP200 shows the entrepreneur are be able to use the amount of the capital in the boundary of J, and for the labor is in the boundary of R. The transmission rate between the capital and labor is surrounding between J and R. If entrepreneur do the production beyond the J and R, they are able to get the same productions, but the factor was more engaged for productions. Same, it is shown on the IP300 by L and M. Same, it is shown by the IP 400 by N and P. So having the point G, J, L, M showing the upper limit of change in the capital, and the point H, R, M, P is showing the lower limit of or we can say the maximum limit of change in labor. So if the entrepreneur are be changed, the factor are be changed, the resource more than this boundary, more than this area, then the production is constant because it is IP curve, but students, it is not fruitful for the producer. It is not productive for the producers. So this is shown by the this is explained by the IP curve. This is explained by the ridgeline curve. So student, the area, what the ridgeline is the production's area, the production's boundary of the entrepreneur while using the various isoquant map. Isoquant map means where the more than one IP is there. So here IP 100, IP 200, IP 300, IP 400. So in this indifference map, we are able to get the boundary of transmitting the capital and labor where the entrepreneur are doing the expansion path or locus the productions while different levels. And it will explain by the O and A is the first line and O and B is the second line. So in the ridge line is the combination of two boundary by O and A and O and B, where the entrepreneur, where the producers are be settled for their production. So this is the basic points of the ridge line student. Now see the students, the descriptions, see the details of this indifference these ridge lines for the purpose of examinations. Firstly, in the above diagram curve, OA and OB and are the ridge lines on the oval shape isoquant, and in between these lines on the points G, J, L and N, as earlier students we define it, G, J, L, N, and further the students H, K, M, P, economically feasible unit of the capital and labor can be employed to produce 100, 200, 300 and 400 unit of the capital. So see here, it is already mentioned, student, G, H, L, M is the maximum limit of the capital and H, R, M, P is the maximum limit of the labor students. Now OA is showing the maximum limit of the capital because all the points are be shown by the OA ridge line, and OB line shows the maximum limit of the labor, because in this point, because in this ridge line system, the lines of the productions, limits of the productions are be shown. So this is showing the limit of the capital transmission with the labor. It means how can an entrepreneur have to change, how can entrepreneur have to transmit the substitute the capital with the labor. So this is the explanation of the ridge line, as earlier we have to mention, student. Now see the students, by the descriptions, for example, OT unit of the labors and ST unit of the capital can produce 100 unit of the productions, but the same output can be obtained by using the same quantity of the output of the labors OT and less quantity of the capital by VT. Thus only an unwise productions or will produce in the dotted regions of the isoquant 100. In addition to dotted segment, the isoquant from the uneconomic regions of production, because they required an increase in the use of the both factor with no correspondence increase in output. If point G, J, L, N H, K, M, and P are connected with the lines, it form OA for upper segment and for OB for lower segment. Now see it. If the entrepreneur are doing the productions over than H point, R point, M point, P point, it is providing same proportion of the output as 100, 200, 300, 400, but having using the more amount of the labor, they are not to be able to get a better production. They are not to be get increasing marginal productivity. Although they expense a lot for the labor, but their productivity is not be profitable. Their productivity is not to be providing the profitable productions to the entrepreneur. So the entrepreneur are not to be ready, or it is not to be economic for the entrepreneur to do the production, to do the substitution over than H, R, M, P and G, J, M and area student. So having pinpoint, having draw a lines with the upper segment G, J, L and is making a curve, that is OA curve. It is the upper segment of the ridge line, which are showing the upper limit of the capital, and the same student HRMP is showing the upper limit of maximum limit of labor, and it is showing by the OB curve, that is the upper limit of the labor student. Now it will be shown by this explanation student. Now see the students, ridge line to in notes student, we can say that ridge lines estimates economic irrelevant inputs combinations and encompass economically feasible range of the productions. In an isoquant map where more than one IP curve are based shown student, we shown all isoquant of a particular method of the production in a two-dimensional shape. We obtain two ridge lines. One is called the upper ridge lines and other is referred to as lower ridge lines. Upper ridge line shows the upper limit of the capital and lower ridge line shows the upper limit of the labor students. One is called the upper ridge lines and other is called the referred as a lower ridge line. The upper ridge lines passes through those points of the isoquant where the marginal productivity of the capital is 0, and the lower isoquant passes through those points of the isoquant where the marginal productivity of labor is 0. Students, here it is assumed that the vertical axis measure capital and the horizontal axis measure labor. So this is a common phenomena in the horizontal point students, we are showing the labor, and in the vertical points we are showing the capital. So this is what we can say, the vertical lines or vertical axis shows the capital limits, and the vertical and the horizontal line shows the labor point student or labor factors. So this is all are be the part of this, all with the description of the ridge lines. I think you are better understand about the ridge lines. Ridge lines is a small concept. Ridge line is a normally student is a small points for discussion, because by the ridge lines we are only to get the economic boundary of the IP curve. Because while assuming or while description of the IP curve, we must be say that the entrepreneur RB get the equi production while each and every point, but it is not for the consumptions, it is for the production, and production is the technical relation between with the factor X and the factor Y. If entrepreneur are not to be get the benefit or not have a possibilities to change the factor, so on that positions the productions only assume that it is providing the equi production is not be technically correct. So this is what the entrepreneur, this is what the economists have to explain it, that ridge line shows those compasses, or we can say the economical areas of the producer while using the production on vivid IP curve. So this is the concept of ridge lines. I think you are better understand about the ridge lines. If you have any query, if you have any questions to related with the IP curve, you must be have to put on the comment box, and I will try to returns you your answer, or your solve your queries regarding ridge lines. Students, after this lecture, we have another point, another topics for discussion, that is the equilibrium of the firms by IP curve and the budget curve. So you must we have to understand, you must we have to read it, and on the next lecture we are discussing about the equilibrium point of the uh, producers. Thank you, students. Thanks a lot for this classes. I hope you are understanding this the economic theories. What is your opinion? What is your what is your views about the lecture? You must we have to put on the comment box, students. Thank you, students. Thanks a lot.